Amidst the winds of change sweeping across the African landscape, a solitary figure emerged, a luminary in the darkness of history. His name, Thomas Sankara. In the midst of turmoil and uncertainty, a fervent awakening swept across the land. The people, weary of oppression and injustice, dared to dream of a brighter tomorrow. It was a time of reckoning, a moment of collective defiance against the shackles of tyranny. In the heart of this uprising stood a solitary figure, his spirit ablaze with the fire of revolution. Thomas Sankara, a visionary of unparalleled courage and conviction, emerged as the beacon of hope in a sea of despair. December 21, 1949 to October 15, 1987 was a Burkinabe military officer, Marxist revolutionary and Pan-Africanist who served as president of Burkina Faso from his coup in 1983 to his assassination in 1987. He is viewed by supporters as a charismatic and iconic figure of the revolution. Thomas Sankara was born Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara on December 21, 1949 in Yako, French Upper Volta, as the third of 10 children to Joseph and Marguerite Sankara. His father, Joseph Sankara, a gendarme, was of mixed Mossi, Fulani, Silmi, Moaga, heritage, while his mother, Marguerite Kinda, was of direct Mossi descent. He spent his early years in Gawa, a town in the humid southwest to which his father was transferred as an auxiliary gendarme. As the son of one of the few African functionaries then employed by the colonial state, he enjoyed a relatively privileged position. The family lived in a brick house with the families of other gendarmes at the top of a hill overlooking the rest of Gawa. Sankara attended primary school at Bobo Dioulasso. He applied himself seriously to his schoolwork and excelled in mathematics and French. He went to church often, and impressed with his energy and eagerness to learn, some of the priests encouraged Thomas to go on to seminary school once he finished primary school. Despite initially agreeing, he took the exam required for entry to the 6th grade in the secular educational system and passed. Thomas's decision to keep on his education at the nearest Lycée Ouessine Coulibaly, named after a pre-independence nationalist, proved to be a turning point. This step got him out of his father's household since the lycée was in Bobo Dioulasso, the country's commercial center. At the lycée, Sankara made close friends, including Fidèle II, whom he later named a minister in his government, and Somain Touré, who was in a more advanced class. His Roman Catholic parents wanted him to become a priest, but he chose to enter the military. The military was popular at the time, having just ousted a despised president. It was also seen by young intellectuals as a national institution that might potentially help to discipline the inefficient and corrupt bureaucracy, counterbalance the inordinate influence of traditional chiefs and generally help modernize the country. Besides, acceptance into the military academy would come with a scholarship. Sankara could not easily afford the costs of further education otherwise. He took the entrance exam and passed. He entered the military academy of Kadiogo in Ouagadougou with the academy's first intake of 1966 at the age of 17. While there he witnessed the first military coup d'état in Upper Volta led by Lieutenant Colonel Sango Lamazana, January 3, 1966. The trainee officers were taught by civilian professors in the social sciences. Adama Touré, who taught history and geography and was known for having progressive ideas, even though he did not publicly share them, was the academic director at the time. He invited a few of his brightest and more political students, among them Sankara, to join in formal discussions about imperialism, neo-colonialism, socialism and communism, the Soviet and Chinese revolutions, the liberation movements in Africa and similar topics outside of the classroom. This was the first time Sankara was systematically exposed to a revolutionary perspective on Upper Volta and the world. Aside from his academic and extracurricular political activities, Sankara also pursued his passion for music and played the guitar. In 1970, 20-year-old Sankara went on for further military studies at the Military Academy of Antsirabe in Madagascar, from which he graduated as a junior officer in 1973. At the Antsirabe Academy, the range of instruction went beyond standard military subjects, which allowed Sankara to study agriculture, including how to raise crop yields and better the lives of farmers, themes he later took up in his own administration and country. During that period, he read profusely on history and military strategy, thus acquiring the concepts and analytical tools that he would later use in his reinterpretation of Burkinabe political history. From the embers of dissent emerged a leader unlike any other, destined to carve his mark upon the pages of history. Thomas Sankara, fueled by an unyielding desire for change, embarked on a journey that would alter the course of a nation. After basic military training in secondary school in 1966, Sankara began his military career at the age of 19 and a year later was sent to Madagascar for officer training at Antsirabe, where he witnessed popular uprisings in 1971 and 1972 against the government of Philibert Tsiranana and first read the works of Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, which profoundly influenced his political views for the rest of his life. Returning to Upper Volta in 1972, he fought in a border war between Upper Volta and Mali by 1974. He earned fame for his performance in the conflict, but years later would renounce the fighting as useless and unjust, a reflection of his growing political consciousness. He also became a popular figure in the capital of Ouagadougou. Sankara was a decent guitarist. He played in a band named Tout Écou Jazz and rode a bicycle. In 1976 he became commander of the Commando Training Center in Pau. In the same year he met Blaise Compaoré in Morocco. During the presidency of Colonel Say Zerbo, a group of young officers formed a secret organization called the Communist Officers Group, Regroupement de Officiers Communistes, or ROC, the best-known members being Henri Zongo, Jean-Baptiste Boukary Lingani, Blaise Compaoré and Sankara. Sankara was appointed Minister of Information in Say Zerbo's military government in September 1981. Sankara differentiated himself from other government officials in many ways, such as biking to work every day, instead of driving in a car. While his predecessors would censor journalists and newspapers, Sankara encouraged investigative journalism and allowed the media to print whatever it found. This led to publications of government scandals by both privately owned and state-owned newspapers. He resigned on April 12, 1982 in opposition to what he saw as the regime's anti-labor drift, declaring misfortune to those who gagged the people. In November 7, 1982, brought to power Major Dr. Jean-Baptiste Ouedraogo, Sankara became Prime Minister in January 1983, but he was dismissed, May 17. In between those 4 months, Sankara pushed Ouedraogo's regime for more progressive reforms. Sankara was then arrested after the French president's African Affairs advisor, Guy Pene, met with Colonel Yeyin Sum. Henri Zongo and Jean-Baptiste Boukary Lingani were also placed under arrest. The decision to arrest Sankara proved to be very unpopular with the younger officers in the military regime, and his imprisonment created enough momentum for his friend Blaise Compaoré to lead another coup. With each step forward, Sankara's vision crystallized, a blueprint for a future defined by justice, equality, and self-reliance. His charisma and unwavering conviction drew followers from all walks of life, united in their shared belief in a brighter tomorrow. A coup d'état organized by Blaise Compaoré made Sankara president on August 4, 1983 at the age of 33. The coup d'état was supported by Libya, which was at the time on the verge of war with France in Chad. Sankara saw himself as a revolutionary and was inspired by the examples of Cuba's Fidel Castro and Che Guevara and Ghana's military leader Jerry Rawlings. As president, he promoted the democratic and popular revolution. This was the rise to power of a visionary, a leader whose indomitable spirit and unwavering commitment to his ideals would inspire generations to come. Thomas Sankara had arrived, ready to chart a bold new course for his beloved homeland. As Thomas Sankara ascended to the presidency of Burkina Faso, he ushered in an era of unparalleled transformation. Armed with a vision of progress and equality, he embarked on a revolutionary journey to reshape the very fabric of society. The ideology of the revolution was defined by Sankara as anti-imperialist in a speech on October 2, 1983, the Discours d'orientation politique, DOP, written by his close associate Valir Sum. His policy was oriented toward fighting corruption and promoting reforestation. On August 4, 1984, the first anniversary of his accession, he renamed the country Burkina Faso, meaning the land of upright people, in Mor and Daïla, the two major languages of the country. He also gave it a new flag and wrote a new national anthem. From the halls of power to the farthest reaches of the countryside, Sankara's influence knew no bounds. His policies, bold and unapologetic, sought to uplift the marginalized and empower the disenfranchised. When Sankara assumed power on August 4, he named the leadership of the country the Council of the Revolution, CNR. This was a way for Sankara to signal that he was going to try for political and social change. The CNR composed of both civilians and soldiers, all ordinary people. But the member count was secret due to security reasons and only known to Sankara and others in his inner circle. Land reform, education, healthcare, no aspect of society was untouched by Sankara's vision for a more just and equitable Burkina Faso. His commitment to gender equality, in particular, set him apart as a trailblazer in the fight for women's rights. Sankara's first priorities after taking office were feeding, housing and giving medical care to his people who desperately needed it. Sankara launched a mass vaccination program in an attempt to eradicate polio, meningitis, and measles. From 1983 to 1985, 2 million Burkinabe were vaccinated. Large-scale housing and infrastructure projects were also undertaken. Brick factories were created to help build houses in an effort to end urban slums. In an attempt to fight deforestation, the People's Harvest of Forest Nurseries was created to supply 7,000 village nurseries, as well as organizing the planting of several million trees. All regions of the country were soon connected by a vast road and rail building program. Over 700 kilometers of rail was laid by Burkinabe people to facilitate manganese extraction in the Battle of the Rails without any foreign aid or outside money. These programs were an attempt to prove that African countries could be prosperous without foreign help or aid. Sankara also launched education programs to help combat the country's 90% illiteracy rate. These programs saw great success. Shortly after the assassination of Sankara, wide-scale teacher strikes, coupled with the new regime's unwillingness to negotiate, led to the creation of revolutionary teachers. In an attempt to replace the nearly 2,500 teachers fired over a strike in 1996, anyone with a college degree was invited to teach through the Revolutionary Teachers Program. Volunteers merely received a 10-day training course before beginning to teach. But perhaps Sankara's greatest legacy lies in his unwavering belief in the power of self-reliance. Rejecting foreign aid and embracing the principles of autonomy and sovereignty, he sought to liberate Burkina Faso from the shackles of neocolonialism. Shortly after attaining power, Sankara constructed a system of courts known as the Popular Revolutionary Tribunal. The courts were created originally to try former government officials in a straightforward way so the average Burkinabe could participate in or oversee trials of enemies of the revolution. They placed defendants on trial for corruption, tax evasion or counter-revolutionary activity. Sentences for former government officials were light and often suspended. The tribunals have been alleged to have been only show trials, held very openly with oversight from the public. Though Thomas Sankara's time in power was tragically cut short, his legacy endures as a beacon of hope and inspiration for the people of Burkina Faso and beyond. His vision of progress and equality continues to shape the nation's identity, a guiding light in times of uncertainty. On October 15, 1987, Sankara was killed by an armed group with 12 other officials in a coup d'état organized by his former colleague Blaise Compaoré. When accounting for his overthrow, Compaoré stated that Sankara jeopardized foreign relations with former colonial power France and neighboring Ivory Coast, and accused his former comrade of plotting to assassinate opponents. Prince Johnson, a former Liberian warlord allied to Charles Taylor and killer of the Liberian President Samuel Doe, whose last hours of life were filmed, told Liberia's Truth and Reconciliation Commission that it was engineered by Charles Taylor. After the coup, and although Sankara was known to be dead, some CDRs mounted an armed resistance to the army for several days. According to Halouna Traoré, the sole survivor of Sankara's assassination, Sankara was attending a meeting with the Conseil de l'Entente. His assassins singled out Sankara and executed him. The assassins then shot at those attending the meeting, killing 12 other people. Sankara's body was riddled with bullets to the back and he was quickly buried in an unmarked grave while his widow Mariam and 2 children fled the nation. Compaoré immediately reversed the nationalizations, overturned nearly all of Sankara's policies, rejoined the International Monetary Fund and World Bank to bring in desperately needed funds to restore the shattered economy, and ultimately spurned most of Sankara's legacy. Compaoré's dictatorship remained in power for 27 years until it was overthrown by popular protests in 2014. In the decades since his passing, Burkina Faso has faced its share of challenges and setbacks. Yet, the spirit of Sankara lives on in the hearts and minds of those who dare to dream of a better future. Sankara's legacy extends far beyond the borders of Burkina Faso, resonating with activists and revolutionaries around the world. His message of empowerment and liberation continues to inspire movements for social change and political reform. Though Thomas Sankara may have left this world too soon, his spirit remains alive in the hearts of those who carry on his legacy. In Burkina Faso and beyond, The flame of revolution burns bright, a testament to the enduring power of one man's vision to change the world. As the curtain falls on this chapter of history, we are reminded of the enduring power of one man's vision to ignite the flames of change. Thomas Sankara may have departed this world, but his spirit lives on in the hearts of those who dare to dream of a better tomorrow.